Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Tim Matchlet and I will be your host. I'm a Cat 1 Criterium and road racer who likes to mix in a little bit of gravel to keep things interesting. I ride for ETP Cycling and I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio. This is just a sneak peek of some of the content I'll be bringing you this year. Thanks to our team sponsors, I will be bringing you race coverage from some of the biggest American Criterium Cup and regional races throughout the year, and thanks to my personal sponsor, State Bicycle Co., I'll be bringing you some reviews of their products as well as other interesting things I tested in my quest for the perfect Criterium and gravel setups. With that, let's dive into this race breakdown. So this footage is from a local practice race here in Ohio called the Parkside Criterium Series, hosted by the local junior development team, Summit Freewheelers. This usually happens every other Tuesday throughout the summer. It's been a great series, helping get new people into criteriums, as well as giving some of us more experienced racers just another opportunity to race. So as we start off here, we'll let the first lap roll, just so we can get an idea of the course. So obviously you can see from the map, this is a pretty technical course, a lot of corners, 2 hairpins. It is just a parking lot criterium, so there isn't any massive distinction between the lines. Lots of cones. It can be a little difficult to see, especially as this is a weeknight crit, so the sun glare does get pretty bad towards the end of this race. So we rolled out from the start-finish line, went through a bit of a chicane and made a 90-degree left here onto this little bit of a straightaway, which comes into the first of the 2 hairpins on the course, definitely the sharpest, and probably the most defining feature on the whole course here. You're braking from, upwards of 30 miles an hour as the race progresses, down to just 15 miles an hour or so at race pace. Coming out of the corner, long sweeping right-hander, back onto the back side of the start-finish straight. In this race, quite a few good riders. Myself, the guy who just passed me here in the Milligan University kit, solid junior rider. He's been racing for quite a bit. He just moved to Cleveland, I think, at this point, so I hadn't had much of a chance to learn what his strengths were. There's quite a few racers from the Summit Freewheelers in here. A couple guys from Bike Authority that are always solid racers. For any of you Northeast Ohio locals, Matt Weeks. Rolling into the frame here on the left is my only teammate in this race, Brian Ryback, or affectionately known as Wookie. Initial plan for this race was for me to attack early and often and try and get off the front, and if not, the backup was for me to lead Brian out. So we'll see how that plan works. Back to the course here, we've made 2 right-hand turns into second most technical part of the course, and this is the second of the 2 hairpins. This one's significantly more sweeping. Unless you're really, really going fast, you can pedal through it. Obviously here on this first lap, which we take neutral every week, easy to pedal through. And then we go into kind of the 2 finishing straights. I kind of consider them both the finishing straight because you really can't lose this race if you go into the last corner first, unless you really are truly out of gas and can't pedal. So a lot of times you'll see people opening up on this straight, taking a brief pause in their pedals so you don't pedal strike as you come around this left-hand sweeper here into the true finish straight, which we are now on right here, and we'll go across the line. So it's a bit of the shakedown of the course, a little bit of a highlight of who's in it. Let's get to the racing. So not far into this race, as you can see, we're already putting down some big numbers, upwards of 400, 450 watts here. And at this point, you can see, looks like it's going to slow down a little bit on the front here. And when things slow down on the front, nothing better to do than wind it up and attack. So as I said, this was pretty early on in the race. Really wasn't expecting this to stick, but again, just testing the waters to see what everyone else was feeling. I have had success actually getting these to stick from lap one, bringing a small group out from the field and having that go all the way to the end. So I stepped on it pretty hard, pretty quickly realized that the whole field was sticking right on me, so I backed it off right away, and I'm just waiting for everyone else to roll through. This guy from Milligan rolled right over the top of me and looked like he was going to continue to attack, so I stuck right to his wheel. Um, Again, really just not looking to go off the front here, but just making sure I stay in a good position. Um, being a pretty well-known local rider myself, a lot of people look at me to do a lot of the work in this race. So staying to the front allows me to cover any kind of attacks that are going to fly. Um, and this is just a training race, so I don't mind eating a little bit of extra wind. So I'm not really looking to try and stay fresh for the sprint or anything like that. I'm just trying to get a good hard workout in, work on some race tactics, um, and whatnot. So here we go again, coming into the less sharp of the two hairpins on the course. Speed's pretty high. We're going 30 miles an hour here. Coming into this hairpin, sitting, looks like third wheel. This corner is really interesting. I always like this wider line. As you can see, I drifted a little bit wider on corner entry, which again helps you to be able to pedal through the corner. A lot of other riders don't take that, and I feel like it hampers, especially on corner exit, your exit speed, and you can carry a lot of speed like this rider here from Bike Ohio attacking. Bike Ohio guys, there were two of them in this race. Both of them, Scotty D and Mr. John West himself, are solid riders. A little bit more your cross rider. Don't see them out a lot on the road, although last year they were out there a lot more. Both solid riders, threats to go away solo. So certainly going to cover that move off. See if it sticks. Certainly not afraid to roll a turn with these guys. I know they're willing to work at a break. Ran quite a few crits with these guys over the last few years, and certainly willing to work at a break. If I remember correctly, the straight here was a bit of a headwind in this race, so it certainly paid to be sheltered. Another hairpin here, and this is the more technical of the two, and again, I really feel that staying wide on corner entry provides you a much better line through the hairpin. And a lot of other riders aren't taking that line. So while they're spiking, 6, 7, 800 watts coming out of that corner to come back up to speed, they're not quite having to get there, which really helps. So cut to the next chase here. We got an attack going up the road, and my teammate Brian covers this one off. So just let those guys go off into the distance. Get to the side of the road, so I only have to cover one shoulder and just kind of set a full pace behind and make sure that nobody goes across that I don't want to see up the road with my teammate. This can be really hard for some less experienced racers in a situation like this where they get stuck on the front and a break is gone that your team is part of. Watching these people go across, you have to be able to understand who that rider is and are they a threat to your teammate. What are your chances? If you close that gap back down and bring the field with you, are you improving your team's chances of winning or losing? Obviously, like in this case, I was already in this rider's wheel. Another rider came over the top with minimal speed difference, and we just kind of kept this together. And again, two pretty serious riders. I believe that's Matt Weeks from Team Bike Authority, as well as the Milligan rider. These were not wheels to just let go, as both of those guys have a serious chance of winning the race should they go up the road and I miss the move. The team would be losing percentage of us winning this race. So, but as my teammates up the road, I'm certainly just going to sit on the back of this and let these guys drag me across. I'm not doing any work here. So you can see here through this corner, you guys have shut this gap down pretty good already. Matt's going to flick through, I think. No, he's going to keep on pulling. Matt Weeks is an awesome rider. He's been doing it for a long time. Solid track rider. It's a really great lead out man, as we might see later in this video. So everything comes together again here through this second hairpin. It's pretty hard to get stuff to stick early in these races. You know, everyone's pretty fresh. Most of these guys are competent racers. Unfortunately for this week, we didn't get them to turn up, but we do pretty frequently have multi-time national champion both on the road and the track, Paul Martin, show up to these races, which is pretty incredible to see. I believe he's now 50 years old and he's still out here kicking all our teeth in. So, you know, as one attack comes back, another one's got to go up the road. So, again, a perfect situation. The pace had come out of the front of the race. I'd sat in that whole time that group was chasing, so I attacked right over the top of the break coming back. Pretty much ideal timing. This one, you know, as the race starts to get a little bit further in, people are starting to get tired. This one I'm committing a little bit more to. As you can see, my hands come into frame here, trying to get pretty aero. Something I've been working on quite a bit. At the time this video was taken last year, I've been running about the same fit roughly for the last 3 years, which was not terribly aggressive. You know, a size 56 frame, the -6 100 or 100 millimeter stem slammed. Nothing crazy, nothing too aggressive for someone who's 6 feet tall. This off season, I have put in just a ton of work on my flexibility, as well as collaborating with Brian, my teammate in this video. He owns our shop sponsor, Gear Up Velo, and is also a certified bike fitter. I've spent a ton of time with him working on my fit to get more aerodynamic. So coming back to the race, Tom Weaver there from Summit Freewheelers, pulling through on the brake, coming through. At this point, we do have a small gap. I think there's a group of 3 of us at this point. So just committing more energy, you know, sitting just above threshold into that VO2 zone to trying to establish this gap here, get away from the group. But as you can see, comes back together again and on to the next one. So just a few laps later, sitting on one of the Bike Ohio guys' wheels here, with the Milligan Jr. pacing on the front. Moving pretty good at this point. You know, coming into the hairpin, good and sheltered position near the front. I certainly think in technical criteriums like this, the front's the place to be. You're not going to gain a whole lot from trying to tail gun in these races. You know, the draft, especially with a small pack like this, the draft isn't that big. But if you get tailed off in one of these corners, the slingshot is real. So, I mean, as I said, coming through the hairpin, I took the wide line on entry and was able to hold more speed than those guys coming out of the corner, and stepped on it quite a bit, you know, over 1,000 watts there on this attack. Again, just trying to get separation. You know, again, this time you can see in the shadows there, I've got some pretty good separation, pouring in the power, you know, 400, 450 watts, trying to get separation from the group, trying to dissuade them from chasing me. Unfortunately, it was myself against quite a few people, and again, it all winds up coming back together. So again here, stuck on the front, as I said earlier, kind of the marked rider in this race, so a lot of people were looking at me to do a lot of the work. Coming into this hairpin, I'm not afraid to really just let off the gas because you can't really attack into this corner. So just trying to get someone to come through and do some work. At this point, it didn't look like anyone was going to do it. This Summit rider is going to attack in and out of this corner, trying to get a gap. I have no desire to chase, as I don't need to, as I have been. And I know there's other teams that have multiple riders in this race. There goes my teammate following the Bike Ohio guy trying to bridge across. Tom's got his teammate up the road already, so he's just going to sit on the front and set a false pace, trying to let that gap grow. And at this point, we start seeing more people going across, some people that I deem a pretty serious threat. But also at the same time, because my teammate's up the road, I have no intentions of sticking my nose in the wind at this point. I'm going to follow people across, and if they don't quite get me there, I might sew up the last little bit on the end just to get across to the break myself. But I'm certainly not going to be helping anybody come across. And if I do have to make the last bridge by myself, it's going to be at quite a high wattage, trying to snap close it and not drag anybody with me. So again, coming through this hairpin, one of the more technical defining features of the course. I'm just trying to sit in, save as much as I can while letting someone else close this gap down um, through the beginning of the start finish straight here with its few kinks. Um, you know, Again, a lot of people sitting in that are willing to close gaps. Everyone wants this to come down to a sprint. Everyone thinks they're a hero. Again, group complete at the front. So what do? You try and attack. Unfortunately, my teammate and I weren't on the same page there and got closed in a little bit on the end of that. Wasn't able to attack over the top. So starting to get towards the end of the race here. I believe this is about the last lap and a half. At this point, Brian and I are talking about how we want to play the end of this race. If it still makes sense for me to lead him out. How is he feeling? And at this point, he was telling me that he wasn't feeling great, and that I should go for my own race. But if possible, still try and lead him out in some way, shape, or form. And sure enough, as soon as we're trying to talk about what we're trying to do here at the end of the race, the Milligan Junior attacks right off the front. Never a good strategy, but with the pace slow like that, it is potential, especially if you have a real good snap, you can get off the front. And he's very committed here. This Bike Ohio rider is really struggling to keep on his wheel, and he does get a gap here, and that's a situation. If I don't close this, I don't know if anybody else in the race had the gas left to close that. So that's a gap I got to close, and not exactly putting myself in the best position coming, with 3/4 of a lap to go. Um, you know, at this point, to prevent myself from being counterattacked, get on the front and do a little bit of power to try and keep the pace up, especially out of that corner. But then again, immediately coming to the side of the road, so I only have to cover one shoulder. This is a big thing. You don't, being able to look over just one shoulder and waiting for the attack to come, which it does right here, and being able to jump straight onto that wheel is huge. And as I was talking about earlier, this is Matt Weeks from the Bike Authority team. Really solid track rider. And at this point, I think he'd tried to get away there, and didn't. And at this point, he knows his race is pretty much over, as that was his last move, and now he's just trying to keep things fast. Unfortunately, by being forward in the group and covering this off, and setting myself up second wheel here, I put myself second wheel pretty far out from the finish line. I mean, at this point, we're probably 600 meters from the finish line coming through this corner. Matt really did me a solid here, pulling all the way through here. I know I was yelling at him, keep going, Matt, keep going. At this point, we're coming into the first half of this finish straight. I'm going to want to go straight to the left-hand line to protect the inside of this last little kink coming into the finish, right when I open up my sprint right here. So as I said, straight to the left-hand side of the road so nobody can take the inside line. Just open it up to about 1,200 watts there. A little bit of a coast through there so you don't pedal strike, and right back up to almost 1,200 watts and cross the finish line for the win. Did manage to take the 1-2 in this race. Post the finish line footage here in a second of Brian coming through second behind me. So it was a successful team win, even though it didn't quite go down the way that we wanted to with initially the plan for me to lead Brian out, but we got it done. It's always important. So let me know how you guys think this went. This is my first attempt at doing a race breakdown. I'd love to hear your comments. Give the channel a like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And see you guys next time. Thanks.